He's there to be serious and be a contender. All right. And we have our guest joining us this evening.
How you doing, sir?
Good, AJ. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. I'm sorry I missed the time zone.
That's all right. No worries. No worries at all. So we're interactive here. So I was gabbing with our guests and still running my mouth. So no
Gotcha.
worries. So AJ Burns am I pronouncing it correctly? MERU or is it MERU?
MERU.
MERU?
I will take MERU, anything you want to call us, as long as you're interested in what we're doing, we'll take it.
The company that starts with M and ends with a U, whatever, right?
Yeah, the company with the cool mountain logo, that's us. Whatever you want to call us, we're good.
Very cool. Well, welcome to Racers News Network Live. Usually I have a co-host with me. He may or may not be joining us. He is a super street racer out here in NHRA Division One. I'm in New Hampshire. He is in Connecticut, and you're in Missouri. Am I correct?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. All right.
Yes, sir.
So the obvious question is, tell us first off a little bit about MERU and how the company came together.
You know, I have a background in midget racing, and we're building a 410 sprint car right now. So circle track dirt stuff is where I came from. But prior to that, I raced motorcycles, and my father did suspension development in the motorcycle side for some of the big supercross teams. And one of my previous sponsors from when I raced motocross reached out after I made the transition to four wheels, and they had a motorcycle neck brace company, and they were interested in starting or doing a race car neck brace. And so he said, hey, next time you're out in California, have you and your dad stop by, and we'd love to talk about the current landscape in the race car side and if there's a place for us to fill. So we really started looking at, is there, what did the current braces on the market do well, and where is there room for improvement? And what they did incredibly well was prevent neck injuries. You know, basically, if you're wearing a Hans or a hybrid or a next gen, the neck injuries had essentially been wiped off the table. But I felt like there was a lot of improvement for concussion prevention. So we went out and we were out there, and I thought I was just going to go have a meeting with Eddie in his office, like I had a bunch of times. And we walked in, and you walk into a boardroom full of people, and there was like 10 people in there. It was apparently a big deal, and they sat and grilled us for about 2 hours on how to make a race car brace and where to make it better. And a couple of weeks after that meeting, Eddie called me up and he said, hey, we're only 2 or 3 years old in the motorcycle market with our current motorcycle brace, and we're looking at this, and it's going to be like $1 million to take this brace to market. So I think we're going to pass on it for now. And so I was a little bummed on it, and because I put quite a bit of thought into it, and so had my dad. And so we were sitting there, and they're like, well, why don't we just do it? So I called Eddie back, and I was like, hey, if you guys aren't going to do this, would you mind if we took a stab at it? And he said, absolutely. So this was back in 2016. We started developing the brace, and I got a group of investors on board just for the early stage development, and we started crash testing. And immediately when we started crash testing, we were taking nearly 70% of the force through the head off compared to our next best competition. And we thought we were going to have to work way harder for way longer to make that kind of improvement. So at that point, it was like, oh shoot, what do we do now? And the brace was pretty ugly and pretty heavy at that point. And so it was like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and let's make this thing sexy and light and look proper. And we also filed for a patent at that time. And we shopped around with a couple of the current safety companies on the market, but we couldn't find the right dancing partner as far as just selling the idea. And so in 2020, we decided this was going to be something that we were going to do ourselves and we were going to take to market. And so that took another round of fundraising, investing. I had to go and travel around and have those uncomfortable business meetings. But finally, last July, we got our funding together and got manufacturing set up last fall, and we started finishing up our crash testing and working towards SFI certification. And we finally got to the point with our when we did our final SFI crash testing, we were able to, in a 70G impact, to take, with the current best brace on the market, you see over 300 pounds of force from the back of your head through your eyes. And with our brace and on our final production test, we were able to lower it to 53 pounds. And so it's over an 80% reduction in force, and we didn't give up any upper neck tension or compression. So it was a really big deal for us. And what was just a vision with a couple of race car drivers a few years ago has now been something it's legitimate. And we finally were able to get our production braces in last week, in mass quantity, and start shipping braces out.
Now, did you guys like literally go out and buy one of each type that is available, put them on a table, more or less put them on a table and look at them all and go, okay, how can we make ours stand out differently from everything that's lined up here?
There was some braces we didn't buy because we didn't want to be like them. And we just there were some braces just from appearance or just like our understanding of like the geometry on how it's stopping the head, we weren't a fan of. And so I think it's fairly easy to look at our brace and see which ones we liked and which ones we wanted to use the good that they were doing. We tried to not completely reinvent the wheel. We thought, what some of the braces on the market were doing was really good neck safety wise, and we really just wanted to work on concussion prevention. So we started with some basic pickup points from the current braces on the market, and then just really tried to work on the concussion side. And my dad had a background in suspension development, and so when you're a hammer, you think everything's a nail. And so we understood shocks, and so it was, how can we fit a little shock on this nail, and then how big of a shock can we fit on it? And our shock is only like a 20 centimeter or 20 millimeter diameter body, but it is doing a ton of work in that little shock. And it's got speed sensitive valving in it, so it moves relatively free with your hand. You can move it back and forth with your hand, but the bigger and bigger the impact, the stiffer and stiffer it gets. So you can move it with your hand sitting on the bench, but in a 70G impact, we barely made it through the whole travel. And the goal is for us to use that whole travel in really any kind of impact. If it's a small impact, we'd still like to use the whole travel, just at a lot lower force. And that one of the things when I was talking to one of the big safety companies, wants to be a distributor for a brace, and he said, for the most part, the safety market has been, we focused on the catastrophic crashes. We're trying to keep you alive and keep from dying. But he said that, I think you guys are in a unique position, because not only have you covered the catastrophic crash to keep people from dying, but you've also covering like just the creature comforts and the small impacts, and the amount of impacts your brace, is useful for is so much wider that it was enough for them to reach out and want to start carrying our braces.
Right, because in all reality, what brought head and neck restraint stuff to the modern market, so to speak, was Dale Earnhardt's crash.
Yeah.
That is what literally a week later, people were showing up at the racetrack with, a head and neck restraint system versus, the, I call it this Pez dispenser, the horseshoe collar.
Yep.
Yeah, you pop your head right off and you look just like a Pez dispenser. Or the round foam collars, or the on the super speedway races, the shoulder strap that they hook into the side of the helmet. Literally within a week, people were showing up with a system similar to that.
Well, and the irony of it all is what made the neck restraints really, what they are today is Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s passing. But the biggest proponent and the driver who's been most open talking about their concussion issues is his son. And so I think it's interesting to see it come full circle, as why the Hans came to market was his father, and why I think one of the drivers that's gonna really help us get to market and focus on the concussion side is his son. So
right. And then now looking at your system, are you able to grab that and put it up closer to the screen?
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the things, like with I'm sure you've heard of Eric Medlin.
Yep.
Yeah. Passed away, I think it was 9 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer.
I feel like it's been long.
Yeah, I don't remember. They just celebrated the anniversary of his passing a few days ago. I don't remember the exact year of it, but has there been any thought in the market for that, for the side to side stuff at all, or is it just mainly focused on the whiplash style injuries?
When we were designing this, we were focused on a fairly fixed set of impacts. It was, we actually see our best crash test results at a 30-degree impact, but your true side to side, like you get from tire shake, that's going to be mostly in your seat surround. But as we've gotten to market, we have so many different drivers approaching us from different series and different applications with what about this, what about this, what about that, and they're all excited to use it, because I know a lot of the drag race guys immediately start talking about every time you pull the chutes, it feels like a car crash. And so they're excited about it for pulling the chutes. The off-road guys were, going down a whooped out straightaway and just the bouncing up and down. The rally cross guys have been excited because every time you land from a jump, the monster truck guys and drag boats, and we've had so many different people that I didn't have circled as our target customers that have approached us and are excited for different reasons. So in its, as it comes right now, I don't think for a tire shake side to side issue, I don't think it does anything better than any of our competitors. With that being said, it's definitely something where I think as we get settled in with the current brace, we can start working on accessories to better suit, all these different applications. Because I think there's a lot we can do. I know right now we're launching the brace, and we'll have a couple different variations of the brace. We're also working with a company on developing a helmet, and then we're also working on a seat. So ultimately, it's all based around energy absorption, concussion prevention, and just in total absorbing energy during an impact, and doing it all with the parts of the car the driver is directly touching. So as it sits right now, I don't think we're any better in a tire shake and Eric Medlin type issue, but then our competitors are. But I think we can definitely improve on that, down the road.
A lot of the things that I read, specifically from drag racing, the guys complain about not being always able to turn their head side to side, or getting in and out of the car. They complain about that a lot. Has that been anything that you guys have taken into consideration in your design?
So our headrest move, it is a sliding tether, so you do get a decent amount of side to side. Anybody who's running a full containment seat with their belts tight, you can see all the way to one headrest to the next. If you can see the headrest, anything more than that is excess. And we want to keep the tethers as short as possible, because the shorter the tether, the less upper neck tension and a big impact you're going to have. So our headrest does move forward. So that allows for a little more mobility, but at the same time, we're running a shorter tether. So the reason for that was we needed to stop the head when it finally does come to a stop. It needed to come to a stop in a similar place to a Hans or a hybrid or any of those. So because of that, we run a much shorter tether. But since our headrest does move forward, you really don't lose any range of motion. As far as visibility, I don't think we're necessarily any better, but getting in and out of the car, I think we definitely are better, because the headrest is never more than like an inch away from your helmet. Since it moves with you and has that short tether, it always stays very close to your helmet. So you don't have the problem of getting hooked on roll cages and on different things inside the cockpit when you're getting in and out. It stays very sleek and close to your helmet. I know we're working with IndyCar right now. And in the IndyCar series with the Hans, you have to use the big scoop that comes up way up above and the helmet and is all curved. So if they ever spin out and have a rear facing impact going into the wall, the Hans doesn't dig into their headrest and push down on your shoulders and vertebrae and collarbones. But they're looking at ours and they don't think that we're going to have to run the scoop, because ours stays so close to the head and the shape allows it to not get caught on things getting in and out of the car.
One of the first things that I saw when I saw your device on Facebook was the shock absorber system, and that is a pretty cool setup in and of itself, I have to say.
I appreciate it. No, it's like I said, it's little. It's not a very big shock. Actually, our first generation was actually the cap and the body off of a 5th scale RC car. We made a custom shaft and piston and seal head for it, but we used RC car cap and body, and the frustrating part was that shock, actually, that first shock we built worked really good, to the point when we started getting production pieces back, they weren't working as good as the prototype we made in our garage. And it wasn't until a few tests before we finalized that our nice production shocks were actually working better than the RC car ones. But finally got to the point where it was like that win for us, because we spent a lot of time building it from scratch, and the pistons inside are modeled off of like motorcycle Honda A-kit shock pistons, and it has speed sensitive, they call it Christmas tree valving in it, and these are just beautiful little shocks inside and out. And so I was pretty frustrated for a while when our ugly one was working better, but we finally got to the point where the from scratch ones work better. So that's a little win for us internally.
That's funny. Now, the first one that you built, was it made out of carbon fiber, or was it just something that was just kind of
it was
together, I guess?
It was actually a 3D printed brace. It was solid nylon, and it was a boat anchor. I think it weighed like 7 pounds, and it was heavy as all get out. It was solid nylon, and it wasn't very pretty. But it worked well. And so that was like okay, so now we need to take all this geometry and turn it into something that actually looks good, is light. And then when we got set up with our carbon fiber factory, and we basically through the whole development process, we were just using 3D printed braces until we got to production. And then it was pretty cool to see when we first got our first carbon braces back. We had the final model of the 3D printed version and this final model of the carbon version, and you set them right next to each other. And all that looks different is the actual texture. They were exactly the same. And you assume it's going to be that way, but it's never quite you never quite know until you have one sitting in front of you and being able to see it. A couple days ago, we had all the generations of braces stacked up next to each other, and you get seeing the evolution of it's pretty cool.
Now, obviously, not everybody is built the same. You have big, wide-shouldered, thick-necked, fat guys like me, and you have, teeny tiny little IndyCar racer drivers. Tell us about fitting that brace to the person. I mean, obviously there isn't a one size fits all universal, everything is good to go. It takes a little customizing.
So the irony of this all is that this brace is, if it wasn't for some really big necked guys, we could cover probably 80% of the market with one brace. Our brace is laid a little flatter. It's a little wider on the actual beds where the belts lie are a little wider. And so technically I should wear a large XL. I'm 6'3", 240 pounds. It goes 12 and a half or 12 inches to 16 inches. Diameter of your neck is a small, and then 16 above is our large XL. But I like things a little snug, so I actually wear the small medium despite my pretty large stature. But it also fits really well on my 10-year-old. We actually just got photos today of a guy who bought one for his 9-year-old, and his 9-year-old's pretty small, and it fits him. So we almost didn't have to pay for more molds, but realistically to fit, there are some guys like you said yourself that probably would enjoy the comfort of one that's a little larger, but it's pretty basic. If you just take a tape measure, run it around your neck in the diameter, if you're above 16 inches, theoretically you're a large XL. If you're 15 to 17 inches, there's probably some overlap. If you're 15 and you like things loose, get a large XL. If you're 17 and you like things snug, get a small medium. But if you're outside that window, our sizing charts on our site, and it's pretty simple. We only have 2 sizes right now, but it does definitely fit a wide range of consumers. The only thing I think we're going to add is we're going to add a youth, because there is some of these little cart kids that are 5 years old that need something, and I'd like to get them into a brace as well. Just because they're little doesn't mean that they can't use it. So we're going to open up another mold for youth, but I don't think we'll open up anything for any larger.
Certification process. Let's talk about that. That you just came off of that.
Yeah. So we're currently SFI certified. We're working on FIA certification. FIA has currently suspended accepting new braces until at least May 31st. They are reviewing their testing procedures and standards, and they have a big meeting on May 31st where they're supposed to decide on what their next move is. It's unfortunate for us because we have a bunch of IndyCar drivers who want to use our brace right now, and we're currently sitting duck for them. But SFI we're all cleared on. We've also submitted a brace to NASCAR. Literally this morning we had Dr. Philip Surface, the medical director for NHRA, reach out to us and they're really interested in our brace, and we have a Zoom call set up with them later this week. I know one of actually our first customer who bought something on our website was Troy Coughlin. So he bought one for Paige. He's waiting for a large XL for himself. But he bought one for his sister Paige. And so we definitely have some drag racing flavor and some in our customers. And as far as recertification, if you have a big impact, should be up on the website within a couple weeks now that we're getting braces out into the world. But if you have a big crash, we're going to have it set up to where you just pay the shipping both ways, and we'll take a look at your brace for free. If we don't have to do anything to it, we'll send it back to you, no charge. If we have to, one of the nice parts is there's several moving pieces with this brace. And so we can, if you have something bent or broken, we can just swap out parts and you don't have to buy a brand new brace. The only thing where we would scrap the whole brace is if you crack the main collar. But if you hurt a headrest, if you hurt shock, realistically you shouldn't. There's basically everything else on the brace will break before you hurt a shock. But if you did, we could replace it. All the shock mounts, pins, everything are replaceable. If for whatever reason we don't have to replace anything, but you do want a new certification sticker just for recertification, it's $40, and basically anything else is going to be $40 plus whatever parts is. We're not charging labor. We're not trying to make money on the service side of this. The biggest thing is we want racers to be sending us back their braces as often as possible because we'd like to see them. We'd like to see how they're working in crashes, if there was any issues to come up. So we're trying to make it as easy and as cheap as possible so we can get them in and look at them and then get them back to you guys.
Any thoughts of doing track support service for the braces to help people get fitted for them on site?
Absolutely. We have a list of like 30 races we're trying to get out to this year. We still have a pretty small team. There's only 4 or 5 of us here at our office, so we're fairly limited in what we can do, how many races we can go to until we can afford a full-time race sport guy. But yeah, we have like 30 races planned, everything from IndyCar, drag racing, sprint cars and midgets, some off-road races. Trying to get out into as many races as possible, and really anybody who has 5-point harnesses is our customer base. So or I guess six points as well. But we're not marking out any different markets, and we're just trying to get as many races as possible, both on the highest level and on the local level, because ultimately your local racers are what pay the bills. And so we definitely don't want to, it wouldn't make any sense for us to go to all the IndyCar races this year for guys that either want stuff for free or deep discounts, when most of our braces sold will be on our local or recreational level. So definitely getting out for race support. We've got a nice canopy and setups to be able to go as many races as possible.
Now, obviously, do you have your own hardware to go along with that for the mounting to the helmet?
Yep. So ours is it should feel pretty familiar to the drivers. The only difference is on the Hans and some of the others are spring loaded, have spring loaded detents to hold the clips in place, and ours is magnetic. All of the strength actually comes from the bolt that goes through the center, but ours is magnetic, and so it just snaps on and comes right off. So if anybody who's been using a Hans, unless they're using like the quick pull disconnects, Ours is a little different from that, but if you've been using the traditional Hans on and off, it should feel, real familiar too.
Did you ever imagine when you guys started this that it would actually come to fruition?
I'm delusional, so absolutely. Um, I think a certain level of delusion is, very healthy for an entrepreneur. And for me, if you had asked me, it absolutely would have happened, but it would have happened 4 years ago. I think everything should happen now and fast and big. And so uh, there was points in time where you didn't know if it was gonna happen. Um, when we were shopping with some of the current safety companies on the market, there was some times when you felt like a superstar and 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and then there was other times when you're like, really down in the dumps. But really, since we decided to take it to market ourselves, that was, it's been really exciting since then, because you get to control your own destiny a bit, and it's how hard do you want to work, and what kind of effort you want to put in. And luckily, I've been able to hire some really good employees to work with me that they're willing to go to war. And the investing group I put together is they're ready to go to a war with me as well. And of course, I have a great fiance. We've worn in a path from Oklahoma City to Indianapolis. We're driving back and forth crash testing, and we've done a lot of overnight trips. We spent a month overseas getting set up our factory. My family as a whole, my parents, my sister and her and brother-in-law came in when the braces arrived last week. We had to put since certification came pretty late for us, we had to put on the certification stickers here. And so we had to unpackage all of the braces and then repackage them. And I'm a detail freak when it comes to packaging. I love packaging and cases and stuff like that. So of course I made a super complicated box and carrying case. So look, yeah, I wanted it to be an experience when you opened it, but I never thought we would have to individually open every brace when they got here. But we ended up having to do that. And so my whole family was here, and we flipped everything in about 3 hours. We unpackaged and repackaged everything. And I had my sister here with her, 4-week-old baby on her chest, putting stickers on and everything. So it's been a family deal. I couldn't have done it without my family, my employees, my fiance. But it's one of those things right now. We've had when you're starting getting DMs on social media from high profile drivers, you're getting, chief marketing officers from the companies that at one point turned us down, reaching out to be our distributors, and stuff like that is just, it makes you feel like it was all worth it. And ultimately, I've told a lot of people that we could have designed a phone case and made a bunch of money off of a phone case, but at the end of the day, it's a phone case. It doesn't really change the world. It doesn't do anything, but I think this product we've been able to do really, really makes a difference. And it can change whether somebody comes home to their family. It can change whether somebody, recognizes their grandchildren 50 years from now. So it's something that it's not only our baby and something we've looked at and worked on so hard, but it's also like a feel good, like you're doing something good for the world type product. So keeps us motivated.
When you got the first one that was ready to go, did you open up the box and first go, who's the knucklehead that designed this box?
Yeah.
And then just kind of take it out and look at it and go, damn.
I should have. We had braces stuck in customs for 2 weeks. We had some hiccups with DHL and just trying to get through corporate companies that move at the speed of smell. And so they told me after it finally got through customs, from the time it arrived in DFW on a Thursday, we did this application for them to be our customs broker on a Friday, and it was a week and a half before they finally approved us. From the time they actually started customs clearance to the time it was over was like less than an hour. So we waited, if this paperwork would have been filed, 2 weeks ahead of time, we could have had things literally like the day after they arrived. And instead we waited 2 weeks. So they told me, oh, it's going to clear customs at this time. It'll be 3 days before we can get it up to from DFW to Oklahoma City. And I said, what time can you have it available for me to pick up? And they said 3:45. And it was, at the time, it was like almost 1 o'clock. And we got there at 4:15, and I picked up those braces and we took them back to Oklahoma City because I wasn't waiting another 3 days. So when we finally got them here and opened up the packages, it was I had set up like 5 stations for us to unpack and repack, and I was immediately in like assembly line mode and trying to get everything flipped. So I probably didn't soak it in and appreciate it as much as I should have. I know at the end of the week, I was opened up a box to send to one of our drivers, and I grabbed the brace, and I was trying to make sure everything felt right with the shock and everything, because you're sending it to a high profile guy, and I grabbed it and I pulled it back and forth, and I was like, wow, that's good. That like the shocks are finicky, and when these ones are actually total pain in the butt to bleed. You get air in them and you can't get them out. And my dad's done suspension most of his life, and we were struggling to bleed them ourselves. And we're like, how are we going to set this up and have, on an assembly line producing these shocks and get them properly bled? And so we struggled with it for a while, and finally we figured out the best way to bleed them is in a vacuum chamber. So I bought a couple vacuum chambers and had them sent to our factory, and they bled them. And so now anytime I have a brace out of the box, I'm like feeling it, and they all feel the same. And I'm like there was one point in time I didn't know if we were going to be able to make 2 braces feel the same, and now everyone I've picked up has felt that way. So there's definitely little wins like that probably don't mean much to the rest of the world, but being so close to it, and this keeping me up at night, there's a bunch of those little wins that feel really good inside.
Cool. That's awesome. Now this question's half joke and half serious. We all know race car drivers like colors. Can that thing come in any other color than black carbon fiber?
So right now, no. We have been approached by a couple different drivers who would like to do like limited edition or special edition braces specifically for drivers. So we can long term, we can make pads, whatever color pads you want, but we can also, there's some different colors we can use for the top layer of the carbon. There's blues and reds and stuff like that we can use for the top of the carbon. And then ultimately, anybody's more than welcome to take it to their helmet painter and get it painted.
Yep. You just read my brainwave, because that was going to be my next question. Now, if I bought one and I called up my buddy Jerron Settles and said, hey, I want you to airbrush this, the paint won't affect the carbon fiber in any fashion, will it?
No, you're fine. You can paint it. The only thing is, if he's either got to mask off the rubber strips on the side, or they'll have to get some more rubber strips from us if they're going to peel them off. But everything else, you can absolutely paint them. And I've wondered like why more people don't like paint their Hanzas and stuff. The other thing that has surprised me, and it's good for us, but Hans famously really doesn't give out deals on braces. And you know, everybody pays for theirs, whether they're high profile Formula One guys, whether the driver bought it, the team bought it, somebody bought that brace. Yet you look and they always leave their stickers on it. They don't get them painted, and they always leave the um, the the Han stickers, the Simpson or whatever on there, and it always surprises me because like if you were to go try and sponsor a Formula One car for a 2-inch logo on the car, it's a couple $100,000. Yet they'll leave the sticker on the back of the Hans device that they paid for. So the good news is that's great for us because then nobody's even ever going to try and take ours off. The other thing is it's a fairly complex curve on the back of this, and for production we were struggling to get them laid without bubbles and stickers and laid the same way. So we ended up actually laying them with like a water sticker, kind of how like they hydro dip them. So they laid the logos on and then they cleared over them. So even if you wanted to take off our stickers, you can't. You'd have to paint over.
You're stuck with it.
Yeah. I like it because then they always look good. Nobody ever peels them off. They never start to peel to get damaged or anything. And I think they look clean. You kind of have that depth. Troy Lee's always been my favorite helmet painter, and he always has great depth in his helmet. So when I saw those, when they sent me the samples of how it looked, I was really excited.
Very cool. Now you've already gone public with it. It's already shipping out. You have more coming to ship out. If people want to really get a good in-depth look at it, how can they check out your stuff?
So we're rapidly expanding our dealer network. Right now we are already set up. I don't know how many of these actually work for you guys, but we're set up with Motor State. So any Motor State dealer can get braces. Winding Country Motorsports, Competition Motorsports, Winding Roads, they all have them, and they have them in their they'll have them in their showrooms. We're working with Summit and Jags to get them set up. We're also working with a couple other wholesalers and a bunch of smaller dealers to get set up. So hopefully in the near future, your local dealership will have one. We're still trying to finalize what our race schedule looks like, but there's a couple big races in almost every series that we're looking at go at. So keep up on our social media, and we'll be posting like a month in advance anywhere we're going if you want to try and hold one in person and try it on. And then also we'll also be sharing a lot of what drivers are using our braces. So if there's somebody near you that you guys race with or see often, that you can go take a look at theirs as well. Ultimately, like we're starting pretty small, and we have fairly limited inventory, and we're doing short orders. Luckily our factory can produce things pretty quick, so we can get quick turn times and keep stock. But this first year is going to be kind of we're going to do what we can, and then the plan is November of this year we're going to hire a full-time race support guy, and so next year that 30 races should be more like 100 races, and try and manage that growth and not grow too fast. It was a little bit of a bummer that we originally thought we were going to be able to debut the production braces in December at PRI, and we still debuted at PRI, but we didn't have certification yet, and we didn't have inventory yet. So it's kind of set us back for the whole year. Where the race season's getting started, and we're just getting going. But we'll try and be as many races as possible. If not, check your local dealer. If not, see what drivers we're posting about and see if one of them's near you.
Very cool. Now your website,
Yes, sir.
how can they, where are you on the World Wide Web?
It is meru-safety.com. That's MERU-safety.com. And then all of our social handles, it's just MERU safety, Meru safety. And you can find us pretty much everywhere else. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. I don't like TikTok, but we're on TikTok. So we we're trying to be really active right now. We've been having to do all like internal generated content, but now that braces are getting in people's hands, we'll have a lot of more organic user generated content, and so real life people using them. And we also have our driver support program on our website. I've been a broke racer going to the races, and we're trying to make this to where everybody can find a way into one. And so if you fill out the driver support program on our website, most people who sign up are going to get some kind of deal on a brace. And then we also have the affirm option on our website, where you can break it up into like 12 or 18 payments. It gives you a couple different options, and it is a high price point brace where we retail at $12.50. So it is in the higher range, but we've tried to find between driver discounts and the financing option, different ways to try and make sure everybody who wants one can get into one.
Very cool. I just sent you a message, so
Gotcha.
check it out when you get a sec.
Okay.
Well, very cool. I'm glad we were able to hook up. Love to keep checking in with you throughout the rest of the year as things progress and see how it goes. And maybe we can shake hands at PRI this year.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a good time at PRI this year. I'd never actually been before we went, and we had planned on going the year before, and we ended up actually having to go to a investors meeting the week of PRI, and so I really wanted to go the year before, knowing that we were going to be launching the following year, just to have like an idea of what the event was like. And I try to watch as many videos and pictures and all that, trying to see what it was going to be like. So when we were setting up our booth, I wanted to be able to pop, but we were in the back corner. We were like the farthest back corner of the show. And so it was hard just getting people back there. But then all of a sudden people started talking about it, and then they were coming and finding our booth. And we had most of the safety companies over there. We had a lot of the drivers and teams. And so we really enjoyed PRI, and definitely if we can catch up with you this year, we'll be back, and we'll have even better booth than we did this year.
Yeah, I've honestly only been to PRI once. It was about 5-6 years ago. And I remember walking by the expo door in the expo area. The double doors were open. I was on my way to the breakfast that morning. And I looked in there and just was like, holy hell. It was just overwhelming just to look in there, with nobody in there. So
I come from the world of racing midgets, and we have the Chili Bowl. And so, we have 300, haulers and race cars inside this one building in Tulsa. So it kind of has that feel. It's just that, like, how the organization and how do you put this all together in such a small area and make this both small and grand area, I guess. But how do you make this all happen? And so it very much had like a Chili Bowl vibe for us. And the only difference was normally I'm there like nervous about racing and everything when I'm at Chili Bowl, and it was a whole new ball of nerves going there with a product and a company, and something that was definitely like it's hard right now because we're in the position where we're going up against like a Band-Aid or a Kleenex or doesn't matter what different type of head and neck restraint you call, like the baseline term is what kind of Hans do you use? People literally think Hans is it is the name instead of a frontal head restraint or a head and neck restraint. They just call it a Hans. So it's nerve-wracking trying to go up against something like that.
Well, your timing was good too with the release of the NHRA rule that just came out. Have you seen this yet?
Yeah. And we had several series this year, and tracks mandate different head and neck restraint rules, and it was it was weird. Like, we've been working on this for 5 years. This was just like, we didn't plan any of this to coincide with all these different tracks and sanctioning bodies mandating new requirements on the head restraints. But then when they did, it was perfect for us. There was a couple tracks where we gave discount codes to all their members because they had guys that were scrambling either to get a new brace, recertify, whatever. And so we gave out a discount code to all their racers. And anytime we can help with stuff like that, we'd love it. Especially, like, ultimately what we're looking for is mass buy-in. We're trying to get as many people using our product as we can. So if we can help out a little bit and knock some off the price early on, it helps us long term.
Very cool. Well, like I said, it was definitely an interesting looking product. That's what drew me to it, to contact you. And obviously, the best of luck. And like I said, I'll keep checking in with you throughout the year. And, obviously, especially after the 500, that's going to be a big one, even though you don't have the FIA certification, but at least you'll have a better idea of what's going on and what the thoughts of people's head, what's going on in people's heads after that.
Yeah, we have a lot of races. We'll be at the Indy 500. We'll be at the Knoxville Nationals. We'll be a lot of different races, and just trying to get the it just takes a few people to buy in for things to really expand quickly. So it'll be a great year of growth for us. And well, I'll definitely check in. I'll let you know, since you guys are on the drag racing side, I'll let you know how my meetings with NHRA go and how things go moving forward.
Very good. Well, word of mouth, it's the best advertising going.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys giving us this platform for us to come on and me to hop on my soapbox and talk about our brace.
Awesome. Well, it was great getting the chance to talk to you, AJ. And like I said, we will be in touch. Everybody check out MERU, MERU Safety on Facebook and on the internet. Take a look at their brace. It's a really cool looking piece. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
All right, AJ, have a great night. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. See you, sir. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. All right. Now, didn't get any knowledge out of that. I don't know what to tell you, but that was very cool. Interesting looking rig. Again, I don't know a lot about the head and neck restraint systems, but I definitely learned some stuff tonight. If anybody has any questions, please reach out to AJ, which at MERU Safety on Facebook, Instagram, and on Google, and check it out. It's a high price point, like he said, but there's ways of getting into his product that are affordable for everyone. And it's a first class looking piece of equipment. So I think he answered a lot of questions tonight. And again, if anybody has any questions, I can direct them to him. Please feel free to contact me. And with that being said, we are out of here. Pomona is this weekend, the national event, Winter Nationals, coming at you Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We will be back Tuesday night with Lorenzo Martin's going to be our guest. We're going to be talking bracket racing down in North Carolina. I'm sorry the show started off a little soft, but that's all right. We got into some good conversation, learned a lot tonight about head and neck restraint systems. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and hanging out. I hope you have a great evening, and we'll talk to you all next week. See ya.